else.
I'm assuming you're referring to Garden and Gun.
Yeah.
O Magazine, right? Oprah's
Yeah.
magazine. So how did those come about?
So O Magazine is funny because I actually that was really my first gig that I got like a
right
year
out the gate.
a year into collage.
Sure.
And the freelance art director just found my work on Etsy.
What's up, everybody? My name is Adam, and I'm the host of the UKnowAdamTsang podcast, the show that is dedicated on bringing on passionate people, learning about their stories, and delivering value to entrepreneurs. So if that's what you're interested in, go ahead and follow, like, and subscribe. You know what I'm saying?
How's it going, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the UKnowAdamTsang podcast, where you get to know a little bit more about people, passions, and all things business. Today, sitting across the way is Nancey B. Price, who is a storyteller, an artist, and a very, very good friend. Nancey, welcome to the show.
Hey, Adam. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so excited to have you on because, honestly, there is something that I've been kind of trying to tell the world, and that is that, business to me is an art form, and I love talking to artists because I think that there's a level of expression that artists understand, whereas, most business people maybe sometimes miss the mark. But for the people in the audience that have never heard of Nancey B. Price, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So like you mentioned earlier, I am an artist, a storyteller, a writer, a farm kid from Girard, Georgia. And so I'm pretty familiar with the area. I grew up, spent all my life in rural upbringing, rural background, and so a lot of my work deals with the stories that my family has told, that's passed down to me, the way that I interpret them and then retell them both in like the written word, the visual word, performance. And so a lot of my work is just sort of like rooted in like rural America and the community that I came up in. And so other little like tidbits, I'm the middle child, the second oldest. I have 2 brothers and a sister, and a big family, and we all love to get together and stuff. It's been kind of hard because of the pandemic and everything like that, but it's been nice to sort of like see outside open up a little bit and be able to just like be around people and in community and everything. So
that's amazing. Your art has really kind of been eye-opening is a great word. For me, the first time that, I heard that you were a collage artist, I was thinking back to, back in the day when I was in middle school where I just cut out various different things. But your artwork is so much more than that. There's kind of like this attention to detail that is there, almost in terms of like the shapes that you cut out of the clouds. They're very kind of like, from what I've seen, very like square, and like there's a pattern that's like existing throughout. How do you find, the inspiration to do that? How do you kind of like, where is that coming from? Is that just who you are as an individual, or did someone kind of like show you the ropes of collage and art making?
Well, my relationship with collage really started when I was a little girl. So back when I was, maybe like pre-K and into first grade and kindergarten and everything, I played with paper dolls a lot. And so I had this whole thing where I would like get like a big poster board and draw out the blueprint of a house. And then I would like draw out the paper dolls and their furniture and clothes and everything, and like build like the house with like the inhabitants involved. So I feel like that's sort of where like the attention to detail started for me. But then like I grew up and forgot about it. And so as like the smart kid in school, a lot of people sort of like steer you to go into certain career fields, whether it's law or medicine or teaching or something like that. So for me, it was medicine. And so anything that wasn't like science medicine related, I sort of just like stashed it in the back of my mind and forgot about it for years, until just one day. This was back in like 2016, so about 6 years ago now. Oh gosh, it'll be 6 years next month.
Time passes by fast when you're having fun, right?
Yeah, for sure. And so I had came across this collage artist on Etsy. Her name's Marilyn Jean Giles, and her work was just gorgeous. It was so beautiful. It just similar to, a lot of my work is inspired by her in that she tells a story with each piece that she creates. And so when I came across her work, it sort of like triggered this like distant memory that I had about what I used to do when I was a little girl. And, little girl Nancey has all the answers.
Sure.
Like I'm doing inner child work right now. And it's just like, dang, she knew then that she wanted to be a writer. She wanted to tell stories. She wanted to play with paper and everything. But, I sort of gave into society and expectations and everything and just hid that part of myself. But seeing that collage art on Etsy sort of just reawakened that creative part of me that's always sort of been there,
Sure,
but just been lying dormant, And so my work is it's about bringing that creative little girl back to the forefront and exploring with detail and adding little like tidbits of information that you have to really look at in order to find, instead of just looking at a big piece.
I love that. For me, I share a little bit about myself. And I connect with this because for me, my background is music, right?
Yeah.
I played piano from a very early age. It was something that was very important to me. And as time goes on...
I didn't know that about you.
You didn't know that?
No. Go ahead.
There's so many
Little
secrets.
tidbit.
There's a little more than that. But so, when I was growing up, you do the sensible thing, right?
Right.
You go towards what makes money.
Mm-hmm.
And I ended up, wanting originally to go to music school, but ended up going to school for computer science, and almost opposite ends of the spectrum, right? But even now, I'm so thankful for what I did, but I always wonder, like, what if, right? What if this? What if that? But you have made this decision that this is what you want to do. And that has to be a scary leap. You have to take that leap of faith to say,
it's terrifying.
Is it? Take me back to the moment. So how did you get to the point where you said, I'm going to do this?
Yeah. Well, I feel like I sort of always just sort of fall into these parts of my life. It's never one of those things where I just ready to make the decision. It's almost like I have to get pushed to the point where there is no other choice but to follow myself and the path that I've set up for myself, even if I didn't realize it. And I go back to when I was pre-med and then making that decision to not go into medicine and be a doctor anymore, and how scary that was. But it's always this idea of just like, for me, the hardest thing that I think I had to learn how to do was listen to myself and follow the path that was meant for me. And I realized that being a doctor wasn't meant for me, And so similar to this situation, I'm sure I'm not necessarily an outlier, but I was one of those people where I took a lot of pride in living two lives. And so it was cool for me to have my full-time day job with the security and benefits and everything like that at a job that I really loved and enjoyed.
Yep.
And then going home and having this completely other life as an artist and as a creative entrepreneur, and connecting with people through social media, through open mics, or with my art and everything like that. But eventually it just got to the point where I couldn't juggle both anymore. And so having to, again, reconcile that idea of listening to myself again and believing that all of the pieces that I put into play for the past 6 years, but honestly my whole life, has led me to this moment, and there's no other path for me to go down now.
Did the things that you were doing at home, the art that you were creating, the storytelling, did that just start demanding too much of your time? Is that how you kind of like made that call?
Not necessarily. It just sort of like I made the call to leave my full-time job, not necessarily knowing what was next. I just knew that I had to take that leap and that something else would be on the other end of it. At the time, I was still planning on moonlighting, I guess, or just keeping my creative part, the creative part of my life part-time. But then as time passed and I started getting opportunities that just seemed to just sort of fall in my lap, which of course nothing ever really falls into your lap. There's always work that's done.
Sure.
But it made me more confident that, okay, wait, maybe this is the thing that I need to be doing instead of trying to find something else.
I'm assuming you're referring to the publications
Yeah.
like Garden and Gun,
Yeah.
O Magazine, right? Oprah's
Yeah.
magazine. So how did those come about?
So O Magazine is funny because I actually that was really my first gig that I got, like a
Right
year
out the gate.
a year into collage.
Sure.
And the freelance art director just found my work on Etsy.
Mm.
You know, ironically, because I found collage through Etsy and everything. And so, which after that, I didn't think that any more opportunities would come, right? I was just thinking, oh, this is just a once in a lifetime thing. I'm not going to quit my job now just because Oprah came calling. But I think O Magazine was a little bit of confirmation that, like, hey, maybe you need to take this a little more seriously.
How excited were you when that happened?
Oh, I was in disbelief. I was just like, you ain't... Y'all looking for somebody else. There's somebody else out there, another collage artist, another Nancey. But they were like, no, we like your work or whatever. And it was scary. And because I hadn't worked under a tight deadline before, it was my first time doing art for somebody else's consumption. And so getting feedback and, having to go back and send drafts and everything, dealing with copyright. There was like 3 or 4 rounds of drafting that takes place.
And so did they ask you to make something for the magazine?
Yeah, so there was an article that they were working on for
I got you.
A book, which, oh gosh, I can't remember the name of it. But they were writing this article for this book that dealt with like it was like 100 or 1,000 like great African American things. Okay. And so I was supposed to read that article and then make a collage based off of that. And so at first they were just like, just send us some sketches of what you got. And so I sent them stuff, and then they were like, okay, so change this, and this, and we actually want you to think about this and that. And did you think about copyright laws? Here are some links. And like I was just a year into collage. I didn't know what none of that mess was. And so it was a very steep learning curve and a very intense like 2-week process. But they eventually did accept like the final draft and everything like that. And since then it's just like each year, something else would come up. Something bigger and something bigger. And it's just like, okay, well, maybe I should just keep trucking along. Still not convinced that I need to quit my job yet. But just keep continuing to make art, keep engaging my audience, keep building my network. And that sort of just blossomed into something that was just like a final piece to the puzzle, a final like detail to the collage.
That's right.
You will,
okay.
To be like, okay, it's time. Like, let's do this.
And you make the leap.
I took the leap.
How long has it been?
It has been, it's been 8 months that I've been doing it full time.
And then how do you feel on the other side?
Oh, gosh. I don't regret it.
Of course.
Every day I wake up and I am scared, but I'm also like gratified and would not have chosen any other path.
I love that.
Even with the uncertainties that exist with being like a freelance artist, a full-time creative entrepreneur, you know, but it's always worth it whenever like I can like put a smile on my client's face or something like that, or just make art that puts a smile on my face. Yeah, and being able to share that with people, whether it is through collage or through storytelling or with writing or things like that. It's just like however which way that I can communicate myself to others and then being able to see others' reaction to that, I think is really special.
It was great. I saw you at the coffee shop over this past weekend, and as I was passing by, Nancey was just with the scissors and with the tape out.
Man, I was making something work.
I was like, oh my goodness, like, and that's kind of like that expression side of it, right? That's a very at the core, it's a very important part of what it is that you do.
Yeah, and that's something that I really like. I found solace in doing now that I work from home mostly, is going out into the community, especially like here in Statesboro. Like there's just so many like really dope little pockets of places to set up shop and like meet people and see people that you've known and everything, and just like pull out some scissors and just start cutting stuff. And then doing that has made me feel like less alone on this path that I've chosen.
That's
that
phenomenal.
I can just create in this environment and not just have to just stay cutting stuff out in my house.
Tell me a little bit about kind of the challenges, right? So, we've been really talking about like that path to make that choice to get there. But, I'm sure as a creative entrepreneur, the competition has to be fierce, right? Like this is something that,
Yes.
a lot of people want to do. I guess, how is it that you have been able to find kind of like your place within everything? You've had, the community, I think, adores you, right? Like you're getting ready to do some stuff at the Averett. You've, done multiple different things, but I guess what's the biggest challenge for you?
I think the biggest challenge for me currently, of course, there's been a bunch of challenges that I've sort of like overcome and everything like that. But right now it's really just believing that the work that I do can sustain me and knowing that I've gotten this far. Shoot, I've made it 8 months already.
It's not easy to do.
It's not. And a lot of businesses don't last that long. And a lot of like freelancers don't last that long. So the fact that I've been able to make it this far, not being classically trained, because I don't have a lick of art degree, nothing in my resume or in my background. All of this is self-taught. But, in relation to the competition, I always tell myself that I am never an imposter in my own room. And so I say that to sort of like buck this idea of like imposter syndrome and feeling like, I'm not trained. I don't know anybody in the art world or whatever. How do I feel like I deserve to be here in this space? But it's not me trying to break into a space. It's me creating my own space and inviting people in. And so that's been something that I've learned to sort of like work through, especially in the early years, because I ain't even call myself an artist for like the first year or two that I was doing collage. I was just cutting some stuff out and gluing it together, and putting it on Instagram, But now that I've been in the game for a while, like there are people who like come to me for advice now, which is just like, dang, I guess I've been, I'm an old head now. Not really an old head, but kind of, like I'm the auntie of the collage world now.
Love that.
Not the godmother per se, but that's given me a lot of reassurance to keep going. It's just to remind myself that I am creating a space and I'm inviting people into my space. Now, whether they want to stay, that ain't got nothing to do with me. I will send out cold calls or whatever. I will invite myself to like different networking events, hand out my business cards or whatever.
Sure.
But, if you don't want to be in my space, then that means it's not meant for you to be. And that way I can continue to cultivate the space to attract people that are supposed to be in my space.
I love that. I think that's a very solid way of approaching, creating that community where the people that you are creating the art for also give back to you.
Right.
How kind of like what is on the horizon for you as a creator?
Oh, gosh. Well, there are, like you mentioned earlier, I am doing some work with the Averett Center. I'm teaching a collage class this semester. I also have a podcast of my own. A podcast alert. So it's called Dreaming in Color.
Okay.
And so this is really my first attempt at really like spreading my storytelling wings a little bit, but also giving people a chance to understand like the impact that dream telling has on the Black community. And so Dreaming in Color is the name of the podcast, and it's all about Black people, dreams, and the lessons we learn from them. And so season 1 just wrapped up this summer, so you can go binge listen to it.
Yeah.
And I sit down and talk with people who have a relationship with a dream, and so I give them a chance to share their dream story, and then we sit down and talk about it.
I gave it a listen. Honestly, the most calming voice in the podcast realm. Love it.
Voice for radio. What can I say?
That's very fun.
But that's the big thing is promoting Dreaming in Color, teaching at the Averett Center. I also have been working with Vino 1910.
Okay.
That's here in downtown Statesboro. They've been such a big supporter of the work that I do. They've commissioned me for art. I've set up art nights in their facility, and we're going to be doing it again the last Thursday of this month, last Thursday of August. So after work, swing on by, see me make some art, and perhaps buy some art. I mean, shameless plug. But
where do people find your art? How can they find your work?
So you can go on my website, nanceyBprice.com. That's NANCEYB as in boy, PRICE. I'm also Nancey B. Price on Instagram. I have a Twitter, but, I don't really use it for much. I'm still trying to find my voice on Twitter.
It's hard.
It's hard.
It's hard.
Oh, gosh.
And it's noisy out there,
It's
too.
like speaking into an abyss. I'm just like, what? I ain't cut out for this.
Uh-huh.
But you can follow me on Instagram. That's where I'm most active.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. Well, I have to thank you so much for coming to the show.
Thanks for having
if there
me.
is a word of advice that you would have for, those creators out there, maybe they aren't in the collage world, maybe they are, but they are definitely artists. What would you say to them?
Listen to yourself. Listen to the little voice that's in your head, whether it's telling you to stay where you are or quit. Find your vision, find your story, and tell that story in whatever way, whether it's through podcasting, through music, through art, Tell the story because it's a story that you want to tell, not necessarily because you want everybody to hear it, because everybody ain't going to hear your story and they're not going to resonate with it. But do this for you and nobody else. And whatever happens because of that is supposed to.
Love it. Thank you so much for the show.
Mic drop.
Boom. Got him.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate it.